Hi folks, well here we are on my 53rd birthday today, and I just thought I'd do this little video. It's more of a chat rather than a rant. Can't rant on your birthday, can you? Just a little talk about basically what I think I've learnt over these last 53 years. Probably one of the first things is, well, where have all the years gone? I mean, I remember when I was 16, 17 years old, and the people I knew back at the time, and remembering how sort of carefree life was. That's when I first met Sharon, obviously, and here we are sort of decades later, and we're still here, although our environment has totally changed and things have really moved on, and our family's obviously got bigger below us, and that is all down to me and Sharon. And also in the same breath, there's lots of people who were around in that time, which are sort of no longer with us as well, and that's very sad. You know, it's a sort of thing where you wish you had a time machine where you could go back and just relive certain times again. Not all the times, because obviously there's good and bad with everything and every time. But just to go back and live certain times again, things that you can remember, sort of thing, off the top of your head, that have stuck with you for years, you know, things like that. And also, what I've come to realise is that the older I've got, the less money means to me and material things. You know, I feel that's probably to do with my lifestyle choices that I've made a conscious decision to make about 12 years ago, and that was come away from employment. And when you get off of that roundabout or merry-go-round of being told what to do all your life, which is basically what you are doing. I mean, when you go into work, it's probably different now, but when I was sort of 15, or just leaving school, coming up to 16, the idea was you go in a job and you try to look for a job for life. And if you're lucky, you'll have a job for life. The best thing to do, or to try to achieve that, was to go into a trade. And obviously I had family members who was in trades, like an electrician, for example, as I then became. But what you're not prepared is for when that happens, is that you've come out of school after being told what to do, and you really dislike school if you were like me, not so much being a bit of a rebel, but just being someone who likes to be independent and to do their own thing, so to speak. So the big shock is that when you come out of school, you're then ushered into a world of being told what to do until you retire. And that doesn't quite sink in right at the very beginning, because you're too wrapped up with, like I was, getting qualifications, and you have to do this to achieve that, to make things better for the future. And your life is supposed to be geared up to making life better for the future. That doesn't 9 times out of 10 necessarily work out so, or it didn't for me, because the biggest part for me was the commitment of giving your time up for a wage, and that's basically what we are taught we have to do. And then you get into a mortgage, and then you get into relationships, and then you have kids and stuff like that. And before you know it, you're in the so-called, call it a trap, where you've got to do the things that you were told to do. In other words, go to work for a certain amount of hours, and you have to do that to pay all the bills, pay the wages, pay the mortgage, run a car, have the latest car, have the newest things, be taken in by what you see on the telly, for example, and the media and stuff like that. And I didn't want none of that, because I'd done all the so-called right things, for example, throughout my life. I was good at my job. I was working hell of a long hours. I got to the top of my trade, like working in my own office and stuff like that, and having my own team of employees working under me. And then I chucked it all away. Then I went out freelancing because I wanted to be my own boss. That didn't quite work out. And then I went back to employment again. And before I knew it, I was in 12-hour day shifts for 7 days a week again. And I'd done that for years and years. I'd done it for about 10, 11 years, until I turned 41, and then I finally broke out of the system. I've been planning to do it, and I've tried to do it on many occasions, and it never really happened. Other things got in the way, life gets in the way, day-to-day stuff gets in the way. You can never quite have enough money to do that thing. But anyway, cut a long story short, I did it, and then I jumped. That was in 2001, and we started working from home. My life had changed because we moved out of London and we moved up to Lincolnshire, We had a better quality of life, so I'd achieved that, but I still obviously had a mortgage, and then before you know it, as I said to you, you're still running on that treadmill until you retire. So that was at the age of 41. And here I am now at 53, and I've been free from the system, as I say, since 2001. And once you step back, that's probably like everything. If you actually step back away from something, you can see the picture of what you were actually involved in. For example, like we lived in a busy city like London, for example, and it's only till you step out of that that you realise that everything is overcrowded, there's restrictions on you everywhere, everything's clogged up traffic-wise, there's rules and regulations, don't do this, don't do that, you can't do this, do that. And then when you step out of that and come to live in a little village, for example, and then you actually realise that, how did you ever put up with it? Because you're so far in it that you don't actually realise. So, I mean, I broke away from that one, broke away from the work, as I say, I got away from the getting up, going, being told what to do, and doing jobs that you shouldn't really be doing, because at the end of the day, it's just menial tasks for the sake of someone else trying to make a profit out of you. And I spent many an hour in employment, just sort of keeping out of the way and trying to hide at the end of the day, because they were just giving you sort of work for the sake of giving you work. And to me, that wasn't quite what life was supposed to be about when I started out, or you know, when I started work when I was 16 years old. By the time I was sort of an adult, you're supposed to be prospering, and you're supposed to be free and having the fun and the great life. Well, I see many people around my age bracket now, probably still in employment, who still are under the so-called thumb of an employer or a company or whatever, and doing things they don't really want to do, and they can't do it, especially stuff with your family. You know, for me, family life is very, very important, and close friends and stuff like that. And these are things that you cherish more. And for example, you know, we may just throughout the day say, oh, come on, let's go out and have a meal with a member of the family or whatever, and now we'll go and do that. And we'll sacrifice our work, because we work from home, to just enjoy family time. When you're an employer working for a company, you can't do that. You're told what to do, when to eat, how long you can eat for, where to eat, what to wear, what to say, who you can talk to, who you can't talk to, what you're not allowed to. Oh, it's unbelievable, the rules and regulations. And I couldn't really go back into that now. Not that I ever will do, full stop. Because once you experience freedom, the freedom to do your own things, to do your the things that you enjoy when you want to do them, that is the freedom which we enjoy. Sure, we have to put up with things like I'm still in contract with certain companies, for example, things like councils and telephones, car insurance, vehicle water rates, sort of electric, gas and stuff like that. And but we try to keep our contact with anyone else to a bare minimum. I call them the bare minimum sort of things, because those are things that everyone has to put up with. So, you know, but that doesn't rule or run our life or whatever. So, and another thing, what I've noticed over the years as well is that the televisions have got bigger, but the stuff they put on it is dumbing you down. It's trash TV. I mean, there's always an alternative or a reason why something's on the TV. It's either to make you frightened, like the fear mongering, or it's all bad news. The news has never been good news. No one ever shares good news. I know they say no news is good news, but the news that you watch on the TV is all about war, depression, oppression, terror, all these sort of key buzzwords to keep you where you are. And you hear all the negativities, and one thing you do realise over the years is that it's always been the same. Unless it is someone wanting something off here, and then they paint an image of something that they want you to see, but in reality it's not really the same. For example, like Christmas, for example. Christmas is a wonderland, and it should be for children, but that's been totally exploited. And it's all about games consoles now for kids, not about learning. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I was so happy to get a box of, like a big compendium box of paints with different bits of pens and felt tip pens, coloured paints and all different things in it. And that to me was a great present. I loved it. I couldn't wait to get that. And like a compendium game set where you had snakes and ladders, Ludo, dominoes, all different board games in one big box. And, you know, that was another thing which you had back in the day. Or the greatest thing you could ever get was a bike. Kids don't do exercise no so they very rarely ride bikes. Oh, very, very strange the way the world's gone. But, yeah, so the older you get, the wiser you get. And you look back and think, things haven't really improved, have they? Sure, people have got more material things. And as for communication now, communication for the new generations is getting less and less with interaction between each other, for example. People don't talk to each other anymore. If you go on a form of public transport, or like a train or a bus or whatever, everyone's sitting with their eyes plugged in, boof, conscious, onto some sort of, which they call a telephone. It's not a telephone, it's basically a way of getting everything out of your head onto this little device and then upload it to a cloud, what they call the cloud, where you can have mass storage. Well, what is the cloud? Well, basically the cloud is another computer. So when you're putting all your stuff on this so-called device of yours that you're told that you need, and then they say, oh, to free up space, or they upload it to a cloud, for example, the cloud is just uploading your information on somebody else's computer. Now, they do say that's secure, or you're led to believe it is your space on the cloud, imaginary items, but in reality all you're doing is putting your information on someone else's computer, and we don't really know who that is or what they can do with that information. And anyway, that's another story again. But as I say, when you actually step back from your situation you're in and look at what's really going on, is it any better? So to me, the world's on a sort of a, the world needs a big reset button. Everything's been exploited to the hilt. For example, vehicles, cars. We've got supercars now on the road, all run by computers. Have you seen the state of the roads? So we've got all these vast racetrack technologies in everyday cars, and yet the holes have got the roads are full of holes and potholes. I've never seen in all my years of driving since the age of 17 so many holes that have appeared or are not being repaired. The only reason they're appearing is because they're not getting repaired. Probably because we haven't got your local councils haven't got a set of repairmen anymore who just systematically go around and actually repair roads like they used to. Once it gets reported, then the council used to go out and actually repair the roads. That now goes out to tender for different contractors, and at the end of the day, no one's really watching these contractors. A lot of them filling holes up. There's obviously ways to make it last, because all they're doing basically is putting stuff in these holes, maybe some sort of tarmac, and then the road gets used again and the tarmac just chews up again because it's not been laid or installed properly. The roads are nowhere near, everything's out of balance. The roads are nowhere near the superior cars that people are actually told that they need now, or it's best to get. And at the end of the day, that's why I no longer want or need a fast, flashy car. I've seen through that. One of the other things which I think is very important as well, we're forever seeing things like charities and stuff like that asking for you to give money. Now, when you're dealing with charity abroad, obviously there's nothing you can do about that, and obviously money seems to be the only tool which the governments or the countries in this world seem to think they can get out of you. Now, when we done Live Aid back in 1985, I remember that very well, and much money was generated to cure the poverty in the third world countries like Ethiopia and stuff. Well, in that 35 years, when you actually just stand back, it's still the same now. So all that money and all that money that's been pouring in over 35 years, it's actually still the same. So throwing money at it isn't the answer, because the simple reason being, it's probably not, the money's not getting put in the right places, and it's probably lying in other people's pockets, the people who control and the administrative costs and stuff. And that in turn drives money away from the actual needy who wanted it. Or you've probably got the people in the third world countries have not had the money or the resources invested wisely for them to sort of grow food or get them out of poverty by building a structure around them or a system, because that might have been oppressed by the people who run the countries. We don't know, but we never know that. All we ever see on our TV is the people in poverty and ask for money in the comfort of our own home. The machinery for getting the money out of us is so simple now. You can do it on your little mobile device, but the machinery for getting the money to the people is so complex. And that's one thing that we have got no say in. So all I suggest is that as far as poverty is controlled, if it's a countrywide problem, like a country is on its knees, for example, then obviously the leaders of the world need to get together and sort that out. It can't be down to us, the individuals here, for example. I say what we need to do is to look after, or the old phrase, charity begins at home. That doesn't mean let's just look after your own little network. I'm talking about people in your area and stuff like that. People around you. Yeah, there might be neighbours who are a bit hard up or whatever, or people who are less fortunate than yourselves. Friends or whatever. People who need help but can't get help, for example, because they either don't know anybody, they've got no one around them, or they're just sort of on a downward spiral and they need some intervention from caring people around them. There's not many people who care anymore, you know, that sort of things that have gone adrift in life. But anyway, that's me rambling on now. I am 53 now. I wish I would have done one of these sort of 10 years ago, just to see how different I think now, or sort of 20 years ago. So this is probably one I might do every 5 years or so, something like that, as things change in the world. So yeah, we are in 2016, December the 15th, 2016, my birthday. We're going out for a lunch later on and spending time with the family. So I'm sorry if I bored you, but it's just me seeing what I see in the world and the things that matter to me. I'm totally happy. There are things around us which you can't control, like illness and poor health, for example, but you can keep a happy persona and a happy spirit, and at the end of the day, look after each other and be nice to each other. Life's too short. See you later. Bye for now.